Hi, I am doing a video today because I am going to explain what breast implant illness is. So this is kind of a personal story, and I'm doing this for the sole purpose that I think it's very important that the FDA and the breast implant companies out there know exactly what's happening to the women that put something into their body that they were hoping to beautify themselves, and in the end ended up getting sick from it because we trust these companies and find out that they hide a lot of information that comes out many years later after multiple people either die or get very ill. Basically 13 years ago, or almost 13 years ago, I decided to get breast implants. So the story was I always was uncomfortable because I was so small, and it was one of the things that always bothered me. And so I made a decision after I had my kids that I was going to go and have breast implants put in. Everything was good, and I made an appointment and I got in and had the implants put in. And right after the implants were put in, basically I had a raging infection. Now, maybe it's a big deal, maybe it's not a big deal, maybe it's how my body processed the implants being put in. But what happened was, to start, my left implant basically fell out of its location and I had to hold it from underneath. And it was encapsulated, incredibly hard. The pain was excruciating. I could not figure out why the pain wasn't getting better, why it was getting progressively worse. And stupid me, instead of going in to the doctor right away, I waited some time because I just thought that that's what was supposed to happen. I was supposed to be in pain that just wasn't going away. Little did I know that it turns out I had a pretty bad infection and started antibiotics, and that's the beginning of my story. From there, that point after, I had a bunch of illnesses that unfortunately led me to multiple specialists. And, you know, the problem in the world these days is that, you know, everyone has a specialty. So you go from one doctor to another not knowing what's wrong, multiple ER visits, multiple 911 phone calls for unexplainable things that were happening to me, that were happening and have continued to happen over the past 13 years. The scary thing is, while I was going through all of this, thousands and thousands and thousands of other women were going through the same thing, none of which we had known about amongst each other because people did not talk about it, did not put two and two together. But the companies like Allergan did know stuff was going on, and unfortunately did not put it out there. Why? Because they like to cover themselves, because everything is about money. Unfortunately, a lot of this country and a lot of this world is about big money, and they forget about people and their health and their wellness, and everything is run by these big companies that unfortunately keep their mouths shut. And until people die, that's when they finally say, maybe there's something wrong. And to this day, they still won't even take ownership. They still sort of believe that women have other things going on, and they won't actually take ownership for what they're doing to women. The sad thing is, some of these women have already had breast cancer, had mastectomies, had implants put in, and then started getting sick or possibly getting cancer. So my implants in particular have been now found out that they are causing a certain type of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's more of an autoimmune cancer that people have died from, and they are textured implants from Allergan. But with that being said, all implants are under scrutiny because they can't tell if the textured or the smooth are making people sick, although they do identify that the textured implants are making people more sick than the smooth ones. And again, no one's coming out with statements. They're very vague. So the things that I've wanted to put in myself to make myself feel better have been slowly making me sick. So I'll go over the things that are out there that have happened to me over the past 13 years. And I have to have a list of them because there's been so many. Starting with, this is the list of illnesses since my implants were placed. I've had extreme fatigue. I know that seems a little vague, but it's the kind of fatigue that sometimes breathing takes extra effort. It's exhausting. It's horrifying. Like you start moving and you feel like you're gonna collapse. Now I know by looking at me and people that follow me and they see how busy I am on day to day, they don't think that that happens, but it takes a lot to get me down. And so I push myself, and people that know me know that I push myself. It's a thing I do. But there has been times where I physically cannot get up because the fatigue is horrible. It's indescribable, and unless you're going through it, you understand. I started developing a very strange lump in my throat, or a feeling of a lump, so to speak. I had that for quite a few years. I would describe it as almost it felt like there was something protruding from the back of my neck into my throat, and I couldn't swallow. I couldn't move my neck. The pain was excruciating. It was suffocating me. I guess doctors would say it would be a globulus. I don't know, that's kind of a general term, but for me it was a tight feeling of suffocation. I developed something called nutcracker esophagus. So after multiple endoscopes, what was happening is food that I was trying to eat or drinks that I was trying to swallow were getting stuck in the middle of my throat, in the middle of my chest, and basically would take hours before they would get down to my stomach. The motility, I had major motility issues, and I had gone into the doctor several times and said, are you sure this has nothing to do with my implant surgery? I feel like it's in my chest. Something is not right. Are you sure? And not by doctor's faults. Everyone said, no, there's no data that proves that. We don't know. Well, in talking and seeing other patients, some of them have described the exact same sensation that has happened with the same implants. Horrifying feeling that you're having a heart attack while you're eating, the inability to get the food down your throat, to get water down your throat because it squeezed the life out of you. I also developed new allergies, which again seems like no big deal, but they are things that I've never been allergic to, that I'll go to eat and all of a sudden I have a complete intolerance for them and my throat just closes up on me. I have my EpiPen everywhere. I always knew I was allergic to nuts and stuff, but all of a sudden I can't eat an egg. I can't eat any Greek yogurt. I can't eat things that I have always been able to eat because it just locks up. Complete new log of allergies that I never had existed and intolerances. I had something that developed at one point in time. I had it for 6 months straight, called hemicrania continua. Basically, that's a massive headache on one side of your head that does not stop. There's nothing you can do to make it go away. It took over the whole side of my head, my right side of my head. I couldn't function. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't move. I couldn't really talk. It was horrifying. I thought I was having an aneurysm. I thought I was having strokes. I thought I had a brain tumor. I went through a series of MRIs, and after finally getting to the neurologist that finally figured out what was going on, they started me on medication that finally started to make it subside. I had 3 mini strokes. 3 TIAs. Oh, well, they categorize as possible TIAs because by the time I got to the hospital, the numbness on the side of my body and the blindness came back. But I've had 3 of them. I developed ocular migraines. Ocular migraines are basically in an eye. You can go blind. You can have an aura. They are horrible and very scary and debilitating. So they came along with all of this. At one point, I ended up getting pain in my carotid artery in my left side of my neck. I ended up going to hospitals because the artery started swelling on me. And at one point, my family and I, which were supposed to be taking a family vacation at Kohler in Wisconsin, ended up in a nice little hospital in Wisconsin, taken by an ambulance because the side of my neck was all swelled up in my carotid artery. And they had to do ultrasounds to make sure nothing was happening for no reason. I have had for going on 5 years now, 3 years straight of intense pain that just doesn't go away, excruciating pain in my left shoulder that goes into my jaw, that goes into the back of my head. I've learned to cope with it, and I've learned to medicate. I use CBD balms to try to make it go away, but the pain is constant. There seems to be a commonality with people with these implants that they have this shoulder pain, and it's excessive and it's bad and it's there all the time. It's there every single day. It's here right now. The other thing is excessive itching internally inside the breast tissue. I've had that constant for 3 years now. I am constantly wanting to rip my skin off internally and around the breast area because it feels like I am covered with hives internally. One woman told a story that she had the same thing and then found out she ended up having this cancer. So I have had that continuously where I take Benadryl. It doesn't do anything. I've had multiple times of pleurisy, which is swelling of the areas around your lung. It makes it very difficult for you to breathe. It feels like your lungs are rubbing against your skin on the outside from the inside, and you can't catch your breath. It's inflammation. Massive. I had a spontaneous pneumothorax. Basically, my lung just deflated for zero reason whatsoever. Didn't get punched, didn't get anything, just a spontaneous pneumothorax. Massive breathing issues on a daily basis. I have costochondritis, which is basically swelling of the rib cage around the breastbone. I've had that more times than I can count. I had pericarditis. I've had it 3 times, which is swelling of my heart muscles. I had pancreatitis, which basically was that my body just couldn't take fatty food, and I had massive pain through the center of my stomach, through my back, ripping me apart, feeling like I was going to rupture, and it turned